Welcome back. In today's lesson, we are going to color our cat line drawing that we finished in our last art session. Last time, we talked about lines, and we made simple lines and connected them all together to make our cat drawing. Now we're going to look at the empty shapes left in our drawing, and we're going to use color to color them in. And we'll use oil pastels for our medium. Before we start coloring, let's talk about color. We have a color wheel, and on our color wheel are three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. In between our primary colors, we have the secondary colors: violet, orange, and green. If we look at our primary color, there's always a secondary color across from it. And these two colors are called complementary colors. What are they called? Good. The complementary colors are red and green, orange and blue, and yellow and violet. Those are our complementary pairs. Now, today on your picture, I want you to use complementary pairs. The bottom and the top shape are going to be complementary pairs. The face, main part of the face, and the top of this triangle will be complementary pair. And the other shapes in between, you may choose whatever you want. Okay, so to get started, we're going to use oil pastels. For your oil pastels, depending on where I'm teaching this, I might have a box like this, or I might have a box like this with your table labeled on top of it. Okay, open up your box, whichever one you're using, and you will want to have a paper towel to clean off your oil pastels. Sometimes our oil pastels get a little grimy from being used on different colors and coloring over different colors. So you might want to have this paper towel here to wipe off the grimy parts of your oil pastel. Okay, now that oil pastel is much cleaner. You can also use your fingers. If there's a really grimy part, you can use your fingernail to kind of scratch it off, like that. Okay? That's how you can clean off your oil pastels. Now, to get started with our oil pastels, you could take a black and outline, but we're going to save that for the end because I find that if you do that, the oil pastels kind of get smeary while you're coloring with them. Okay, so choose a color. I am going to choose yellow. That's what I chose in my previous drawing, and I'm just going to choose this yellow. I'm going to kind of clean it off by wiping it on my paper towel. Make sure there's no grimy colors on it, and then I'm going to start coloring in this top shape. As you color, make sure that you are pressing down hard. We want our colors to be nicely colored. We want them to be pressed down hard so that there is no white space left in our drawing. Okay, now as I do this, you can see I'm going fairly fast. You might have to take your time and go slowly. And if you can, take your paper towel and set it underneath your drawing. Then if you go off of your page like this, you won't get oil pastel on the table. Okay. Now I like to tell kids, for coloring inside of the lines, you can rotate your picture and make sure that you go parallel with the line. That means you're going the same direction as the line. Rather than going this way, back and forth, where you might accidentally slip and go over the line, if you go right next to the line, then you won't slip over it as often. Okay? So if I go that way and I go parallel to this line here in the middle, then once I get those areas done in, I can then kind of color back and forth nice and close to each other and not go off of my line or out of my line. Now you can look at how nicely I'm coloring this. It's nice and thickly colored. If I just color lightly like this and I say, "Oh, Mr. Lundgren, I'm done," does that look like good coloring? No, definitely not. You want to push hard so there's no white paper left. You want your lines to be close so there's no white paper in between them, and you don't want to go fast because you don't want it to look scribbly. Okay, so that shape now is very nicely colored in. Now yellow is at the top, so at the bottom I'm going to need to use violet or purple because that is my complementary color. Remember, it's the color that is across the color wheel from yellow. So I'm going to color right along the edge parallel to this curve. And notice I have my paper towel underneath so that I don't get my table grimy. And I color parallel right like that. And you'll see that my oil pastel wants to stick to the paper towel. Okay, so there's my two complementary colors, yellow and violet. Now I'm going to color the face in. I'm going to choose orange for the face. Okay, just going to make sure that's not grimy. And if you get to a point where you need to peel off the little piece of paper for the oil pastel, make sure that you do that so you can get the color on there. And then I'm going to color this whole face here in with the orange. Okay, I'm going to color parallel to my lines. First, and the eye might be a little tricky. You might have to kind of color around the eye. Okay, notice how I turn my page to make the coloring easier for my hands. And notice how I'm pressing hard. I have a nice thick oil pastel. I have my paper towel off the edge here so that I can go right off the edge of my paper. And I'm going to color around my lines, parallel with them. Then I won't go into that space. Okay, now I've got that orange filled in, and I'm going to work on the other side. I'm going to turn my paper around so it's on the right hand side of me. I'll turn it and color parallel to this line. Like that. Color parallel with my line. like this. Okay, now that I've got my face completed, I want to do complementary color here. So I'm going to take my complementary color, which for me is going to be blue. You might have a different complementary color depending on what colors you chose, but I'm going to choose my complementary color of blue here. And I'm going to go right along the edges of my lines, and then make sure that that shape is totally filled in. Okay, now I'm going to choose whatever colors I want for the rest of my picture. I'm going to choose pink for the nose of my cat, because I think cats usually have pink noses. You can obviously choose whatever color you want. And I'm going to color parallel with the edges of my shape first. Okay, I'm going to choose some green for my eyes. Coloring parallel with my eye shape. And coloring parallel with my eye shape. Here, making sure I'm very careful to stay inside the lines. And my last shape, I'm going to choose light purple for the mouth area down here. And I'm going to choose red for this little decorative triangle-y diamond shape up here. Okay, now that completes the coloring of the colors for our cat line picture.